So let's talk about this model, the review cycle, and what it is and how it can help you very purposely increase your sales and create better experiences for your customers. Now, in contrast, there's old school ways of thinking about sales. And right here we have two different sales models. The first is the IDA model. It's just a basic awareness funnel from attention all the way to action or purchase. And it ends there. It's like, oh, okay, so people think about buying something or going on vacation somewhere and they're looking at hotels. But then once they've decided, that's the end of mapping out the customer experience. This hourglass model is a little bit newer, and it talks about how the experience continues after that point of decision making, and you want to build brand advocacy. But the issue with both of these is that they're very linear in nature, and they're not really reflecting the true experience that's happening for us as consumers online. We look at stuff over and over again online. And so it really needs to be cyclical. It needs to be a model. And that's where the review cycle is different. So I'm going to talk first about the stages of decision making, the 4 stages of decision making here, and then we'll talk about how you can influence those behaviors. So the first one is consideration. Think about this for yourself. You're a consumer. The first thing you do is you decide to consider a purchase. You say, hey, I'm going to buy a vacuum. And so now I'm looking online and I'm looking at all the different vacuum options and I'm browsing search results. Then one of them looks interesting. And so I engage with OGC, that's organizational generated content. That's the branded content that lives on the product listing or the company's website. So now I'm looking at all this information that the company has put together about their vacuum. It looks awesome. And now I want to validate my decision. And so I'm going to look at the reviews and the Q&As, and I'm going to watch an unboxing video on YouTube. I'm going to see what social media influencers are saying. I'm trying to see what the online community says about this vacuum to help me feel good about proceeding and purchasing this model. Now, if I find things that I don't like, then I'm going back to number 1 and it starts over. But if I like this vacuum, then I'm going to proceed to purchase it. And then I'm in the post-decision experience. That's essentially what's my actual experience with the vacuum, with that product directly. So those are the 4 phases that we as consumers go through when we're deciding what to buy, where to eat, and even what jobs to apply for. This same sort of thing happens with job searching, right? You want to apply to a job, and then you're going to go browse the different career sites and profiles on Glassdoor and Indeed and the other sites. And then you go to apply for the job. And that post-decision phase represents your entire employee experience with the company. So that's great. It feels pretty logical. It makes sense. But how do we as companies influence the behaviors of consumers at each of those 4 cycles so that it turns to our good? That's where we talk about the elements of owner influence. So the first one, now you'll notice right away that we're looking at phase 4. It very
I'm not sure who froze here, but Matt seems to be frozen for a moment. Hopefully he'll come back on.
Okay, I think we just froze for a sec. We're back.
There we go. You're back.
Okay, fantastic. Sometimes you just got to take a little chill break for a second, right?
Exactly. So, modern technology.
You never know what you're going to get, but we're here. So you need to start focusing on these 4 phases backwards. And if you think about this logically, we have to ask for reviews from people who've had a real experience with the product, the service, or the company first before we can do anything else. Because if there aren't any reviews online, there's nothing to manage. There's no user-generated content to consider at that point of purchase on the product listing. So we have to ask for reviews. Now, in the book, in the review cycle, I talk about some very specific strategies of how to get more reviews. One of my favorite ways is to understand the way that consumers behave and what gets them motivated to share their feedback online. And I went through a whole bunch of different studies, and I even did some of my own research across thousands of reviews and found that the number one most common reason why people share reviews is to give back to the community. People feel like they've received something, they've benefited from reading online reviews, and so they want to pay it forward. The number two reason was to share one's opinion. People like to be heard. And so if you can speak to even those first two things in the way that you're phrasing your review requests, you're appealing to those pre-existing behaviors and the ways that people are already deciding to share feedback. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to respond to reviews. Now that's coinciding with the UGC phase 3. And the reason why we want to respond to reviews is to showcase the highest level of care for our customers or employees, if we're responding to employee reviews, as possible. This helps turn a negative review into something that can actually increase purchase intent. I've seen situations where another person will comment on a review, and not all profiles allow for comments from others, but some of them do. And I've seen situations where another person will come on and comment and say, man, the company is responding to all the negative reviews. And, even though this is a negative review, this is what convinced me to buy, because I feel confident, like they're taking care of people. And so if I have a bad experience, I can have confidence that they're going to take care of me as well. Now, also in the book, I've got an entire chapter dedicated to specific strategies to enhance this very unique form of public showcased communication, right? It's not a one-for-one communication. Responding to public reviews, it's not chat, it's not email. Those are both one-for-one wins or losses. But when you're responding publicly online, it's a one-to-many environment. And so you need to take it seriously. Now, on the teams that I've led at different companies, we've tried to hire expert, experienced writers, people who have a lot of experience with grammar, with phrasing, and with different things, but they always get trained on this very unique strategy that's in chapter 4 of the book. But you don't have to be an expert writer to give it your best effort. And the book will give you a lot of tips to make it easier to respond and give you more confidence to respond to any review, even if someone's straight up lying in a review. There's some tactics for discrediting negative reviews and setting the record straight, which is very helpful. So the next